I'm 68 years old. That number still feels strange to say, not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I never imagined my life would move this fast. One moment, I was making plans, telling myself I had time. And then suddenly, decades were behind me. People assume that by 68, you've made peace with your past, that you've accepted your mistakes and learned from them. In some ways, that's true. But there's one mistake I still think about often, not because it destroyed my entire life, but because it quietly stole 10 years of it.
10 years I will never get back. And the worst part is, I didn't realize it was happening while it was happening. When people hear the word mistake, they imagine something dramatic. A bad marriage, a business failure, a reckless decision that changes everything overnight. Mine wasn't like that. It was slow, quiet, almost invisible. At the time, it even felt reasonable. That's what makes it so dangerous. In my late 40s, I reached a point in life where I felt stuck. Not unhappy, just restless. I had responsibilities, routines, and a sense of duty that filled my days. From the outside, my life looked stable. But inside, something felt off. I told myself I just needed to push harder, work more, think less, keep moving. I believed that if I stayed busy enough, the feeling would go away. It didn't. Instead of listening to that discomfort, I ignored it. I distracted myself with work, obligations, and noise. I stopped asking myself honest questions. I avoided stillness because stillness made me think, and thinking made me uncomfortable. That was the mistake. I treated my unease like an enemy instead of a message. For the next 10 years, I lived on autopilot. Wake up, do what was expected, go to sleep exhausted. I convinced myself this was just how life is at my age. That joy naturally fades. That curiosity has an expiration date. That wanting more was childish. So I stopped wanting. And slowly, without realizing it, I stopped living fully. Those 10 years weren't dramatic or tragic. They were quiet. And that's what makes them painful to look back on. Nothing terrible happened, but nothing meaningful did either. I missed opportunities not because they weren't there, but because I wasn't paying attention. I avoided change because it felt risky. I stayed comfortable, even when comfort was draining me. I told myself I was being responsible. In reality, I was being afraid. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers things like, just wait. Now isn't the right time. Be grateful for what you have. Don't rock the boat. And I listened. For 10 years. I watched time pass without truly engaging with it. I saw seasons change and felt strangely disconnected from them. Birthdays came and went. People grew older. Some left. Some changed. And I stayed the same. Not growing. Not evolving. Just existing. It wasn't until my late 50s that something finally broke through. It wasn't a crisis. It wasn't a tragedy. It was a quiet moment. A moment of honesty. One evening, I found myself sitting alone, surrounded by the life I had built, and feeling nothing. No pride. No excitement. Just a heavy sense of emptiness. That's when it hit me. I hadn't lost 10 years to bad luck. I had given them away. I realized I had made one critical mistake. I chose comfort over truth. And it cost me a decade. Once I admitted that truth to myself, I couldn't unsee it. Comfort had slowly turned into a cage. It didn't look like suffering from the outside. I still had routines. Still had responsibilities. Still had people around me. But inside, I was shrinking. My world had grown smaller without me noticing. The mistake wasn't that I failed. The mistake was that I stopped choosing. I stopped asking myself what I wanted. I stopped challenging what no longer fit. I stopped believing I was allowed to change. And over 10 years, that quiet surrender reshaped my life. The hardest part was realizing how it affected my relationships. When you live on autopilot, you become distant without meaning to. Conversations become shallow. Time together becomes routine instead of intentional. I was physically present but emotionally absent. People noticed, even if they didn't say it out loud. I missed moments of connection because I was too busy maintaining the version of life I thought I was supposed to live. I avoided difficult conversations because they threatened my comfort. And in doing so, I slowly drifted away from people I cared about. That distance didn't happen overnight. It happened one unspoken thought at a time. By the time I reached my early 60s, the cost of that mistake was undeniable. I felt older than my age, tired in a way rest couldn't fix, restless but afraid to move. That's when I finally asked myself the question I had avoided for 10 years. What am I actually afraid of? The answer surprised me. I wasn't afraid of failure. I was afraid of starting over. Starting over felt humiliating, risky, unnecessary. I told myself it was too late to change direction, too late to try something new, too late to rebuild parts of my life that felt wrong. But staying the same was slowly breaking me. And that's when another truth became clear. Time doesn't punish you for changing late. It punishes you for never changing at all. So I did something uncomfortable. I chose honesty over comfort. I had conversations I'd been avoiding. I let go of routines that no longer served me. I allowed myself to want more. Not more money or status, but more meaning. The change wasn't dramatic, but it was real. And it felt like waking up after a long sleep. I can't reclaim those 10 years. That's the part that still hurts. But I can make sure the years I have left are lived with intention. That's why I'm sharing this now. Because the mistake that ruined 10 years of my life is one many people are making right now, without realizing it. They mistake comfort for peace, routine for purpose, stability for fulfillment. And by the time they notice, years are gone. If you feel numb, restless, or quietly dissatisfied, don't ignore it. That feeling isn't a flaw. It's a signal. Listen to it before it costs you time you can never get back. I'm 68 years old, and one mistake quietly stole 10 years of my life. Don't let it steal yours.